House meeting in order to discuss it, actually, with our Washington, D.C. correspondent Josh Rultenberg. Josh, can you hear me?
Hey, Michaela, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing today? Excited to talk to you. We have been dipping in and out of this committee hearing all day. Now, just a quick recap. House Republicans holding that hearing as we speak to impeach Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. Republicans accusing Mayorkas of disregarding federal immigration laws. Democrats saying Republicans are just playing politics. Now, what has happened so far in today's hearing?
Well, look, this thing started at 10 o'clock in the morning Eastern time. We're after 8 o'clock at night Eastern time now. So 10 hours have gone, and we still don't have a resolution on this House Homeland Security Committee question about whether or not they are going to favorably recommend articles of impeachment to the House of Representatives for Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. Now, as you already highlighted, the Republicans here feel that Mayorkas has committed high crimes and misdemeanors for his what they call his mismanagement of the U.S. southern border, and they also feel that he has lost the public's trust. Democrats are basically saying that you can't conflate policy differences with impeachable offenses, and so they're going back and forth right now. One thing lawmakers certainly know how to do is talk to cameras, and so we're going to wait to ultimately see how this whole thing shapes up. But we're expecting that there will be a party line vote that Republicans will favorably recommend that the entire House of Representatives take up this impeachment, and then we'll see if the votes are there for the entire House of Representatives, because we know that it's a slim majority for House Republicans. But the one thing we do know is if this does make it to the U.S. Senate, this will be dead on arrival, and Alejandro Mayorkas will keep his job.
Now, speaking of the Senate, negotiations are continuing today over a potential immigration deal in exchange for aid to Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan. What's the latest on the state of that bill?
Well, look, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer was on the Senate floor today saying that talks have continued over the weekend, and they're talking now, but they're just not done. And we've been hearing that for a couple of weeks now. And the one thing we know is maybe there are some finer points that are still being hashed out, but there hasn't been any actual text of any bill that has been released so that we, the members of the media, whether lawmakers on Capitol Hill, can actually review what has been the product of these bipartisan negotiations. So the one thing that Schumer has said is that former President Donald Trump has gone out of his way to try to kill this bill. And Trump has said it publicly. He has pointed to Senate and House Republicans saying, do not vote for this. And if you have to blame somebody, blame me. Now, House Speaker Mike Johnson had his own press conference today. He said that there is a responsibility to act on the southern border, but that House Republicans are also trying to use all of their leverage that they have, considering that they control the lower chamber. Now, Johnson also said that he has talked to Donald Trump extensively about this, and he says that Trump understands that something has to get done, but that's just not what Donald Trump has been saying out loud. So we'll wait to ultimately see what the text looks like here. But all of this is unfolding as there are real consequences that are happening around the world. And we also know that there is a potential new hostage deal that could take place in the Middle East as far as exchanging hostages that Hamas is holding in exchange for prisoners that Israel is holding. So we'll wait to see ultimately how this all shakes out.
Alrighty, now moving on, continuing to talk about some other House members. Missouri House Democrat Cori Bush confirmed today that she's being investigated by the Justice Department. Can you go into a little bit about what this investigation is about and what's been the response so far from Capitol Hill?
Yeah, so there was actually a report that was uncovered today about Cori Bush being investigated by the Department of Justice. That's why ultimately she came forward. She had a brief meeting with the media on the steps of the U.S. Capitol today. She didn't take any questions. She basically just read a prepared statement from her phone. But what she is being investigated for is for allegedly misusing campaign funds for her own personal security reasons. Now, she says that these are not federal tax dollars, that this is her campaign. And she says the fact that she has gotten a lot of personal threats, she had to hire her own personal security. Now, she says that the personal security that she hired was her husband. And the fact that he has experience when it comes to security, and also her words that he would come at a lower market rate than what typically would be she'd have to shell out for some sort of personal security. Now, she says that she is fully cooperating with the Department of Justice, but she also acknowledged that the House Ethics Committee is investigating her, as is the Federal Elections Commission. So there are multiple agencies here, and obviously a committee on Capitol Hill that is looking into her. She also pointed out how the Office of Congressional Ethics investigated her last year and cleared her of any wrongdoing, and she says the same will come from these investigations. We'll obviously see how that shakes out, but also House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries said, first and foremost, she's like any other American. She should be presumed innocent, obviously, as this process plays out.
Now, moving away from the lower chambers and going right on up to the executive office, President Biden says he has decided how the United States is going to respond to Sunday's drone attack on a U.S. base in Jordan by Iran-backed militants that killed 3 American soldiers and injured a number of others. What do we know so far about the kind of attack that will be done and when we can expect it?
Well, those are some interesting questions that you just asked. Look, President Biden, he was boarding Marine One this morning, obviously on his way to Joint Base Andrews before he took off for Florida. And he was stopped by and spoke with reporters before he boarded the helicopter. And he was asked if he made his mind up on how he would respond to these attacks that the president and his national security team feel were backed by Iran-linked militants. And all he said was yes. But when he was asked about what those look like, he's not going to share that because due to national security reasons. Now, we do know that he's been meeting with his national security team over the last couple of days. And also the president said on the South Lawn there that he does not seek a wider war in the Middle East. And so we'll ultimately wait to see what his reaction as far as the U.S.'s military action might look like. But we do know that Senate Republicans would like to see President Biden go ahead and actually attack Iranian leadership in Iran. And we just don't know whether or not that's actually feasible and whether that's actually an option because the White House and their officials have not taken any options off of the table right now. So ultimately, we'll wait to see what happens. And, you know, we'll just wait. You know, we just don't know when this attack is going to come, when this retaliatory attack is going to come. We'll just have to wait and see.
Alrighty, once again, Washington, D.C. correspondent for East Texas, now Josh Rultenberg. Josh, we've been talking nearly weekly at this point, and it's always a pleasure. Hope you have a great rest of your night.
You too.
Alrighty.